musicians work hard to develop their own identity, but there are times when we got to step in and adapt to a situation. Now, you had in your career two very daunting challenges when you began your association with Ritchie Blackmore. In Rainbow, you follow Ronnie James Dio and Graham Bonnet, two pretty decent singers, as I
Definitely.
recall. And then, of course, you take the Deep Purple gig, and you're assuming the mantle of Ian Gillan, David Coverdale, and Rod Evans, all very strong personalities in their own right, who connected
Yeah.
with respective audiences. Hey, that's tough for any musician to navigate. What was your approach in those situations when you got the call?
Well, I'll address the fact that I try to be identifiable. I am who I am. I feel like Popeye when I say that, but I am what I am. But I'm me. My voice is my voice, and I can try to emulate people. That's how I think we all learn. You guys probably emulated people on the bass, Jocko, who knows, right? But then you develop your own kind of style and who you are. Unless you're playing a session, you play for what's needed. Now, you're playing for what's needed, but at the same time, you're playing you. You're still you. It's still you in there. And you probably suggest a couple of other moves that they didn't even think of. And that's you. That's your identity. So I tried to keep my identity, is what I'm trying to say. But at the same time, tried to do a great job. And people said, well, you got big shoes to fill. And I arrogantly said, no, I'm going to make my own footprints, because I can't be any of those guys. My credo in life, my father always taught me to be who you are. That's the important point of life. It's not riches. It's not fame. It's trying to spiritually and on this material plane to find out who you are. What are you here for? What's your purpose? What's your worth? What are you giving back? You're here to give something. He told me, he says, look, you're my child, but you don't belong to me. He says, you belong to the world. And he says, so go out there and do, for the world, do this, give them the music. And those words still echo in eternity for me, so I just went in and did my damn best. It's funny, people ask me if I got backlash from that. Are you kidding? That's all I get is backlash. But I'm like the challenger who gets in the ring, who doesn't have the reach and probably doesn't have the height and maybe is less powerful, but I get in there and fight anyway. I'm kind of like the underdog all the time. And they always call me underrated. And that's probably true. I really do believe I'm underrated, because I don't think people, I think people listen with their ears, but they don't really hear. And there's a lot of that goes on, or maybe it's the opposite way. Maybe they hear, but don't
let me
listen.
interrupt. There's a great line in George Martin's book, All You Need Is Ears, which came out in the 70s. And he said about the Beatles, as talented as they were, he goes, people listen to music with their eyes. When they saw the Beatles and how gorgeous they looked and how exciting. You were there February 9, 1964. What happened, right? When they saw the Beatles, when they see you on stage, when they see you on a record cover, they decide right then and there whether they're going to give you a chance to like you. That's George Martin's words. So
that's right.
Continue. Yes, you're absolutely right. People don't listen to music with their ears. Musicians do, but not the civilians.
No, not the general fan base. And I don't mean to disrespect anybody, but not my fans anyway. But I'll tell you something that would I had a girl who worked for me for years and years. She used to be a radio programmer, and she knew all the DJs and everything. And when my album Rescue You came out, all the girls went fluttering over it, and all the guys hated me. She told me, she said, all the guys hated you. They didn't want to play your record because of that. And that's about looks, because I was, was kind of fancy pants back in those days, right? And that I always said to her, really, Lisa, is this true? She said, absolutely true. And I saw that provocation on them, if the guys aren't like, if you're not like a regular geezer, forget it. There's a lot of, let me put it this way. The hardest thing for me to learn was jealousy. Because I'm not jealous. I'm envious. Yeah. But that's a big difference. I envy someone who's accomplished things. I envy someone who's got an importance and has done things in life, which makes me want to do something like that. But I'm not jealous of that. I'm not Salieri, with Mozart. Yeah. I'm not that. I really am not. I'm still trying to find out who I am, what my creativity is about. And I'm too preoccupied with that probably to be jealous of anyone. I mean, there's a really great singer out there who's I'm proud to call a friend of mine called Dino Jalusic right now. And he is just the shit, man. If you get a chance, listen to Jalusic. This guy can sing, and he's been singing since he's like 3 years old. He's also an amazing keyboardist and amazing composer and writer. He's from Croatia. And I wrote a major review on the album and I posted it on my social media because I'm so impressed with this. And people were like, wow, you can actually give accolades to a guy who you think is. I said, look, I had my day. I did my day. I'm an inspiration to him. He told me so, face to my face. He said, you were my inspiration. He's mentioned me. I said, that's enough for me. What do I got to withhold whom I think is going to bring who's the next guy who's got the torch? And he's it. You know, he just puts everybody to shame. And he's learned from all of the greats, whether it was Coverdale, Gillan, Tyler, me, whoever it was. He took everything and put himself into it. Why be jealous of that?
The way it should be.
Exactly. But that's why I wrote a song called Jealous Lover, although it was more in a romantic fashion. But there was a couple of lines in there in the verses that said, today you love me, tomorrow you might, it's like they're so fickle, people. Here I am on stage today, but something changes. And sometimes, they come up with, especially when you're on stage, you might have had this, guys. You're on stage and you're rocking away, and the girl's looking at you, she's like into you, and the boyfriend's got his arms crossed and he's looking at you and he's looking at and he wants to take your head off.
See, well, that happened to David because David was a hard rocker with long hair. See, I was a dweeby indie rocker guy, so I had the short hair and the black T-shirt, so I didn't have to worry about that stuff.